What's up, gang? Welcome to The Greatness Machine. I'm your host, Darius. I'm so pumped to have you here with me. Now, listen, The Greatness Machine, we're about two things. Number one, people who are living their passions. And number two, those who are creating greatness in the world and doing both of these things despite the odds against them. Each episode, we're going to feature interviews with game changers, business leaders, telling us their origin stories, what made them tick, what got them to where they are now. Why? So it can help you step into your greatness within your life, your business, and your career. Occasionally, you might hear a few solo episodes from myself, moi, as I leverage my 20 years of entrepreneurship as a CEO and founder to help you grow and level up in your journey to scale your life and your business. So come be a fly on the wall, enjoy the conversation, and I'm stoked to have you here with me. Guys, welcome to this episode of The Greatness Machine. I'm your host, Darius. And boy, do we have a special guest. Marshall Goldsmith is in the house. What's up, Marshall?
So happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you here. Marshall, do you mind if I do a little bit of housekeeping and then we'll get started here?
Please.
All right. Well, so for listeners who are new to the show, The Greatness Machine, we're about two things. People are living their passions and those creating greatness in the world and doing so despite the odds. And Marshall here is neither short of passion nor greatness. Now, Marshall, I would love it. Look, I met Marshall. I'm going to back up. I've heard amazing things about Marshall for probably a decade now, I'm it probably should have been 2 decades given his amazing background. But you got on my radar actually through Bob Glazer, and he is a good friend of mine. Been on the show a couple times. And he had really talked. He was, I think, one of your 100 coaches, I believe.
And he is.
And yeah, exactly. And so it was him and Mike Maddock where I had first started to learn of your work, and everyone kept saying Marshall Goldsmith this, Marshall Goldsmith that. I'm like, oh man, how am I like living under a rock? How do I? Everyone seems to know this person, and I just hadn't noticed. And so then you came and we did an event. You were supposed to be the keynote for Gathering of Titans. April 2020, and unfortunately with COVID happening, it turned into a virtual event, and I got to spend time with you virtually. It was probably, when you don't meet someone in person, especially over Zoom, it's sometimes hard to remember them, but we met at GOT Zoom, over Zoom 2020, and it was a really fun event. Mike had brought you in. We did great work with you, and since then, my business partner Terry Carlson is one of your former students. I've met Michael Bungay Stanier is a former guest on the show, and so you've crept into my world in so many different ways. And so I'm so grateful to get to have you to educate our audience and to be here to really spread the good word of the Marshall Goldsmith. So welcome to the show, my friend. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you for your nice comments, for this kind invitation.
So, now Marshall, you don't know this, but your team is very selective about what shows you go on. You probably do know that, actually. I think they politely declined a couple times because you're a very busy guy too, but we finally got you to come on the show, and so I'd love it if you don't mind. I'd love to educate our audience a little bit. For those, most of our audience probably knows who you are, but if you don't mind, I'd love to do a quick bio on you just for the audience. And then here at The Greatness Machine, we love origin stories. Would love if we could get some of your origin story. How did you get to where you got to, and then jumping into the show? Does that work for you?
I would be fine. I am not a high probability bet here. When I was young, I'm from a small town called Valley Station, Kentucky. My high school came in next to last in Kentucky in academic achievement. My elementary school was worse. We had an outhouse the first 4 years I was in school. We didn't have indoor plumbing. So I wasn't exactly brought up at Harvard Prep. So, I was brought up in a small town, and I'm very, very fortunate. My mother was a first grade school teacher. My father had some idiot idea women shouldn't work. So the bad news is we were poor. But the good news is she devoted all her energy to me. So I knew how to add, subtract, and multiply and divide before I went to school. So I always got a huge advantage over the other kids. And then I went to a little undergrad school, Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology. I was attitudinally challenged as a young college student. I almost got thrown out 3 times. I got 5 Ds, barely graduated. But last year I went back and gave the commencement address and got an honorary PhD. I said, let's hear it for the bottom of the class. You never know. You never know. Then I got an MBA at Indiana University and a PhD at UCLA. I was a college professor and dean when I was young. And then for 47 years, I did three things, traveling all around the world speaking and teaching. So I've been in 102 countries. On American Airlines alone, I have 11 million frequent flyer miles. So I'm a
Oh my
mega
gosh.
flyer. Then I coach people, as you know, along with the wonderful Terry. I've been a coach of the CEO of the World Bank and the Mayo Clinic and Walmart and Ford and Pfizer and all kinds of people from around the world, Saudi Arabia and France. And I love coaching because that's where I learn things. And then I write books and articles. So I've done a bunch of books. And so life is good. Life is good. Life is good. And then as a hobby, I adopt people, our 100 coach program. I went to a program called Design the Life You Love. Women said, who are your heroes? My heroes are kind and generous people or nice teachers. She said, you should be like them. So I decided to adopt 15 people, teach them all I know for free. I put a little ad in LinkedIn, a little video. I'm thinking 100 people would apply. 18,000 people applied. Now I've got 400 people in our wonderful group. So that's been a lot of fun. And my new life is MarshallBot. I have my own AI computer bot. Very exciting. MarshallGoldsmith.ai. I'm giving away everything I know. So life is good.
I love that. So, most people don't just wake up and they're the number one leadership thinker in the world. That's probably not a normal thing. And it sounds like you found your way to leadership development through academia. Were you, and especially having come from an environment where, you said attitudinally challenged, what do you think it was? What was the transition for you? Like, was there always a curiosity around leadership? Did you find yourself to be like a natural leader? Like, I'd love to hear a little background on that.
Well, I wish I had a little bit more grandiose reasons for this, but they were actually much more practical. So I was getting my PhD from UCLA. It's basically my idea of escaping reality for another 4 or 5 years and avoiding the real world. But then I realized, well, I'd be a professor, which sounded pretty good. I met a famous man named Dr. Paul Hersey. He was the highest paid person in the world in our field at the time. He worked with Ken Blanchard, another great guy. He got double booked. Ken couldn't help him. He said, can you do what I do? I said, I don't know. He said, I'll pay $1,000 for a day. I was making $15,000 a year. You know what I said? Yes, sir. Now you have to realize I'm a 28-year-old kid whose business experience is pumping gas in Valley Station, Kentucky. This is 47 years ago, $1,000 a day. That's serious money. I said, yes, sir. So I go through a program for the Metropolitan Life Insurance Company. They are pissed off when I show up because I'm not him. But I got ranked first place of all the speakers. Why?
Wow.
I'm funny, have a good time. The others were boring. They love me. So he called them up and they said, send this guy again. He said, do you want to do this again? I said, are you crazy? I'm making $15,000 a year. You're paying me $1,000 a day. Yes, sir. That's how I got into this business.
Wow. That's amazing. So did he know that you had speaking ability, or was it just by chance? I mean, obviously you worked with him at UCLA. What was the connection there besides the work?
He guessed I had a good shot, but he was also desperate.
Creativity is the mother of all invention, right? So he's like, well, I'll give this guy a shot. So you were 27 years old. By the way, I just want to take a step back here. When you worked at the who owned the gas station? Was it was this a family business, or was this like
my
shop?
Dad. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you don't know this. We have this in common. My dad was on gas stations, and I pumped gas. I pumped gas from the age of 10 to 18 every summer in Riverside, California. So we share. I don't know if you have this, but like when I walk into a gas station, it has a very nostalgic smell for me. Do you have that experience? There's like a little. It's like this like rancid smell that like it makes me like reminds me of my childhood. I'm probably a few people. How old were you the first time you worked at your dad's gas station?
8, 10.
Wow.
Like you. I mean, look, we didn't have any money.
Yeah. That's insane. Wow. I'm so proud to know that you and I have that in common. I think all kids should start working young. What are your thoughts on that?
I completely agree with you. And for me, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about life. And also, a lot of people don't know about business. I mean, you work in a small business like we didn't, look, you take money in, you pay money out, you keep what's left. It is shocking how many people with MBAs from Harvard do not understand this concept.
Yeah, it's funny. I saw this clip. It was on the TV show Silicon Valley on social 2 days ago, and he was one of the guys on the show was saying, "Revenue? No, you got to stay pre-revenue." That way they have something to look forward to. The minute you have revenue, then they can value the company. So that was kind of funny. So I'd love to know, like, going back to my question around, like, what I growing up, I felt like a calling towards leadership. I was always like raised my hand to be class president, and what I just, my friends joke, I always raise my hand first. And
Right.
I was talking to a former guest, Gabrielle Reese, about this, and she said, I'm a hand raiser. I always raise my hand first. So I think for some folks, like myself or like her, like that's just like how it is. Like, hey, I want to go first. Like if I'll take responsibility. Like I'm easy to hold myself accountable. And then when you do that, at least in my experience, then and you get it wrong because you screw things up, then you're like, man, I got to get better at this. So you start learning leadership. Like, how did that work for you? Obviously you did it from an academic stance, but like, was this just an itch? Was it a calling? Was it something where you're like, I'm really, outside of the speaking opportunity and making a lot of money,
Yeah.
what was it that called you towards leadership?
I like teaching. So my call was not to be a leader, but a teacher. Now you have to realize, in a traditional sense, I'm not a leader. I coach leaders. So my clients are leaders. I mean, it's President of World Bank. I've coached 5 CEOs of the year in the United States. They are leaders. My job is a teacher and a coach to try to help them get better. So my mission in life is I help great people get better. I'm so proud. I'm proud of this. Look, I didn't come up with a vaccine for COVID, but I coached a CEO who did.
Yeah.
And I didn't save 20 million lives, but I coached some guy that did. I didn't turn around the Ford Motor Company or Best Buy, but I coached people that did. So, that's what I'm proud of.
And what do you, and so when you start looking at obviously having a passion for teaching, then that can allow you to lean into this ability to teach, people who can create a lot of impact. When you look at all these different folks, whether it's, an Alan Mulally or, like all these different people that have done amazing things, what's the commonality you see with the greatest leaders?
Well, again, I don't work with all leaders, but I can describe the people I work with. And smart, dedicated, hardworking, driven to achieve, care about the company, care about the customers. They are being who they are. They're not faking it. They're not pretense. They are who they are. One of the great leaders I met, Frances Hesselbein, was CEO of the Girl Scouts. Peter Drucker said the greatest leader he ever met. I knew her for 40 years. She died at age 107. How many times did I ever hear her complain? 0. How many times was she ever down? 0. I mean, I am up. I am positive. She just loved what she did and just conveyed that to others. Al Mulally, same thing. I mean, I've known him for decades. Probably one of the great CEOs in the world in the last 30, 40 years. How many times I ever hear him complain? 0. He was always a professional, always focused, and he loved what he did. So it wasn't like Francis or Alan are sacrificing themselves or martyrs or victims. They love it. So I think the great people in any job love what they do. I love what I do. I'm 75 years old. I'm still here, right? I love what I do.
Yeah, I love that. Well, let me ask you a question, because I've done, like I mentioned, I've done a lot of leadership development and training, and I spent a year. I don't know. Are you familiar with the Stagen Integral Leadership Program? You heard of that program before? Yeah, Rand Stagen's conscious leadership, and so there's this whole perspective that I've been really kind of playing with lately off of a learning that I had in that program, which is, meeting people where they're at, and what, something that at least the perspective of from that program is that you can't, like, you can be yourself, but like there's different global mindsets, right? You have people that have maybe more progressive mindsets, more traditional mindsets, and your team is made up of all sorts of people with all different types of mindsets, maybe more autocratic mindset. Everyone's different, right? And so if you come in and you're the leader, and I want to get the most out of that relationship or get the most out of that person, I got to meet them where they're at. And that might mean me filtering myself a little bit, or watching how I come into that relationship, and not maybe necessarily being my 100% authentic self, because I don't have that social capital yet. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, look, I'm a believer in situational leadership. The inventors of that were Paul Hersey and Ken Blanchard. Ken Blanchard's still alive. I just had lunch with him about a month ago. Just a great guy. And the essence of situational leadership is there is no one best style of leadership. You need to use a leadership style that fits just what you said. You got to fit the needs of the people you work with. And it's not about, here's what I do, everyone in the world love me. It's, what do they need? And the whole idea of a leader is, I'm not here for me, I'm here for them. So you've got to give people what they need. And, for me, I need structure sometimes. Sometimes I'm great at being left alone. Sometimes I need help. Well, we're all different, and it's okay.
And so one thing that I've been playing with a lot lately as a leader, and we were talking before the show. So I'm in a new business. I have a private equity business. Terry Carlson, who is a former head of retail at Schwab, one of Marshall's former clients, students, probably all the above, and then some friends. She and I have talked a lot about really like, how do you show up to have tough conversations with people, right? A lot of times, especially in a high stakes business, and maybe you've seen this with a lot of your people you've worked with who are these large CEOs or large leaders, and large CEO, large leader means large responsibility, right? My belief, and probably I'm saying something as Terry would say, I'm being Captain Obvious right now, is, in order to sit in those chairs, you're taking on a lot of responsibility. So that requires a lot of like crucial conversations, or we're probably dealing with conflict because we have people with big incentives for their voice to be heard, to get what they need for their constituents, whoever they're representing. And sometimes there's competing, priorities there.
Sure.
For leaders that maybe tend to not come across as maybe having, I'm choosing my words carefully here, like being like conflict prone, or being like not wanting to embrace conflict out of the gates, maybe people that want to try to massage to get to an outcome. How do you, what is your perspective as a leadership coach on how people should view that? Because I think people inherently don't love to go in with conflict and maybe want to find consensus earlier, but inevitably, I actually think that creates a lot of waste in the process. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, because that's something that I've seen with a lot of people I've worked with, and even myself, that I will tend to try to find consensus first. Right. And a lot of the times it comes at the expense of time and energy.
Right. Well, I'm going to give you some advice. Number one, great question. Number two, I'm going to give you some advice that was given to me by Peter Drucker. Also, I'm very, very lucky. Peter Drucker, the founder of modern management. I mean, I got ranked number one leadership thinker in the world. My brain compared to him, 10-year-old child. That guy was smart. And he taught me so many wonderful things. He taught me one lesson I've literally repeated 1,000 times to my clients. And if your listeners just get this point, they're going to be better at dealing with conflict. And back to your point, they're going to save a lot of time. Are we ready?
Ready. Let's do it.
Point one. Our mission in life is to make a positive difference, not to prove we're smart and not to prove we're right. We get so lost in proving how smart we are and right we are, we forget we're not here on earth to prove we're smart and right. We're here to make a positive difference. My whole book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There, talks a lot about that. Point two, every decision in life is made by the person who has the power to make the decision. Make peace with that. Not the smartest person, the best person, the fair person, the right person. Decisions are made based on one variable. Whoever has the power to make the decision is going to make the decision. Point three, if I need to influence you and you have the power to make the decision, there's one word to describe you. That word is called customer. One word to describe me, that word is called salesperson. Customers don't have to buy, salespeople have to sell. Peter Drucker taught me this. In life, sell what you can sell. You change what you can change. If you can sell it, sell it. If you can change it, change it. If you cannot sell it and cannot change it, smile, you take a deep breath, and you just let it go. Put our energy where we can make a difference. Now I'm going to talk about this, back to your good question, from two perspectives. One, I need to influence you. You're the power. And then two, other people when I have the power. Both important and different. If I need to influence you, very simple, I think like a salesperson. I believe me influencing you is going to make a positive difference in the world. I really focus on selling what I can sell. I treat you with respect. I sell to your needs, not my needs. And I sell to the bigger picture, not just my own personal agenda. And I do my best to be a great salesperson. If you can sell it, sell it. If you can't sell it, let go. If you don't want to work at the company, leave. Now, let's assume that I'm the boss, though. Back to your question. How to deal with this conflict? Let's assume I'm the boss. You want to do X and I want to do Y. my instinct, I have to prove you wrong. That leads to all this unnecessary argument, time wasting, all kinds of nonsense. I don't have to prove you're wrong. It's usually, in fact, dysfunctional. You want to do X, I want to do Y. I'm the boss. If X is about 80% of what I want to do anyway, just do it your way. Don't win small points. Only when, if you're the boss, don't win small points. If it's 80% what they want to do, let them do it. On the other hand, let's say it's a big point and I'm the boss and we disagree. It's fine. You know what I say? In this case, you want to do X and I want to do Y. You want to do X for the following reasons. Is that correct? You say, yes. I said, I just want to make sure I understand. I want to do Y for the following reasons. Do you understand what I said? Yes, you do. Well, you know what? In this case, we just disagree. You're a very smart person. I respect you. And a lot of times you win our disagreements. And this one, though, I'm your manager and I've thought about it. I respect you. I like you. You're a great guy. I made a decision. In this case, here's the decision I made and here's why. You say, I disagree. I said, I understand that. And sometimes, we disagree. You say, boss, I think you're wrong. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I am. And by the way, if I'm not wrong this time, I'm going to be wrong sometime. So, yeah, maybe I am wrong this one. And if I'm not, I'll be wrong sometime. Look, I respect you. I like you. You're a good person. We've talked about it. I've made a decision. Let's go make it work the best way we can. As opposed to, let's argue forever while I consistently hammer you over the head and point out that I'm right and you're wrong. By the way, you're not going to change your mind anyway.
Right.
It's all a total waste of time.
It's interesting, like as you were describing that, what I heard was honoring the person's perspective is a big part of that, right?
Yes.
And so that by honoring their perspective, I'm not telling them they're wrong.
Right.
I'm telling them that in their world they are right, but then I'm also giving them the opportunity so I can explain to them why we don't have an agreement of opinion, and
That's
then
fine.
and it makes it less about you and more about just the decision, right?
Well, here's another key point. Let's assume business is not like engineering school; it's all a guess. Let's assume on this decision there is an 80% chance that I, as a manager, am right, and a 20% chance you're right. We don't know. We're both guessing here.
Right.
So the 80% guess is a good guess, and my decision is a good decision. Even in that case, 20% of the time, you're going to be right.
Right.
Not me. Well, nobody knows. We don't have a crystal ball here. We're both guessing. So just recognizing the fact that that's the way business is. We're just guessing. Nobody knows the answer. Nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow. We're all making a guess here, and make peace with that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like one of the things that I used to be a person that was always trying to predict the future constantly, and what and this is and maybe you have some perspective on this. I came from the world of mortgage lending and servicing. That was my former business. Very volatile business. Big highs, big lows, all interest rate driven, all macroeconomically driven. So what ends up happening is interest rates will drop 2%, and then you have to like triple your staff overnight,
Right.
and then they'll drop 2%. You have to cut your staff 2/3. And it was one of the reasons I left the business, because for me, it was like heart wrenching to like build something and then tear it down and then rebuild it constantly. I did it for a couple decades. But the conclusion I came to was that I feel like we're in a new world right now where volatility is kind of here more so. It feels more volatile from a business perspective than ever before. And so because of that, I actually feel like the best leaders are the ones that can make quicker decisions with shorter cycles, knowing that the cycles are not going to be what they were. The stability of the business environment seems to be more gone because of increase in technology, maybe macroeconomic changes, all these different things that, the new norm in my mind is volatility. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts on do you agree with we do have more volatility in business and the speed of the cycles is faster? And then lastly, like if we agree on that, how can leaders lead better through more change?
Well, number one, I agree with A and B both. Now, how can leaders navigate through change? Fail faster. Let's go back to our scenario again. and I'm the 80% good bet. It's not working. Let go of your ego. I come back to you and say, you know what? We had a discussion a while back, and you want to go one way and I want to go the other. Boy, times have changed. One of us was right. You know what? That would be you. Not me. That was you who were right. And hey, you bet on it. I had the wrong bet. Well, look, it's not too late. Let's learn from this new experience and adapt and adjust right now. And hey, you were right in the first place. Let's go your way. As opposed to, again, don't get fixated in the changing world. You got to be adaptable and flexible. Just like you said, you got to let go of your ego. Because what happens is once we dig into a position, we have to be right. We quit listening. We quit learning. Then that's where you got in big, big troubles.
And do you think that, I mean, and again, what I'm hearing you say is it's really just around like not being a knower, really being a learner, right?
Excellent point. Back to my friend Alan Mullally. Alan goes to Ford. Okay. Alan goes to Ford. The stock is 101. He was there. The stock leaves 1840. Stock went up 1,837%. And he had a 97% approval rating from every employee in a union company. He didn't know anything about the technology, right? So what happens is Alan asks, listen, and learn, and gets people to admit their mistake. He gets there and he says, I want everybody to rank how you're doing relative to your plan right now. 5 top objectives. You got to realize this. 16, you can't make this up. 16 people, the company's losing $17 billion. They've got 80 objectives, red, yellow, green. The first meeting, all green.
I've heard this
all
story.
Green. Alan goes, wait a minute. We're going bankrupt. We're losing $17 billion. We're all on plan. Bad plan. Let's do it again. Finally, somebody says, red. Alan stands up and applauds. Thank you for telling the truth. Well, thank you for telling the truth. And then he said, I don't know how to fix this problem, but I bet somebody else here does. So back to your point, Alan's attitude is, as a CEO, somebody asks him for a suggestion or idea, you know what he'd say? Is there anyone in the company can answer that question better than me? If there is, I probably shouldn't be talking. See, this is a very, very important point for what you're saying. One of my coaching clients was JP Garnier, CEO of Glaxo. I asked JP, what'd you learn about leadership as the CEO of this huge company? He said, I've learned a hard lesson. My suggestions become orders. And the higher up you go, the more your suggestions become orders. He said, if they're smart, they're orders. And if they're stupid, they're orders. And if I want them to be orders, they're orders. And if I don't, they're orders anyway. My suggestions are orders. For 9 years, I taught the admirals in the U.S. Navy. What's the first thing I teach you new admirals? You get that star? Your suggestions are orders. Admirals don't make suggestions. Admirals give orders. I asked JP, what'd you learn from me when I was your coach? He said, you taught me one lesson and helped me be a better leader and have a happier life. For everyone listening, learn this lesson. Before I speak, breathe and ask myself one question. Is it worth it? And he said, as the CEO of GlaxoSmithKline, 50% of the time I've had to just stop and breathe. Is it worth it? What did I decide? Am I right? Yeah, maybe. Is it worth it? No. Back to what you said about the leader as learner. See, Alan is a role model. If Alan said, Alan, give me a suggestion. If he made a suggestion, what would that person have done? Yes, sir. Done. Yes, sir. And then they'd say, the CEO told me to tell you this.
Yeah.
No, what's he say? Give me a suggestion. Well, let's find somebody who knows what they're talking about here.
That's funny. So my last business, I got up to 1,000 employees, and I had learned the same lesson, which was my words matter a lot more to other people than they do to me. And so right. I became really respectful of the position that I held, and to say that, hey, when I say something, people take it way differently than, to your point, than what I maybe meant. So I have to be more thoughtful about what I say. And then secondly, it was even like, it was little stuff. It was like, I don't email people after hours unless I absolutely need to. I don't text them after hours unless I need to. I don't send them an email that they could perceive to be like aggressive, because there's a power dynamic here that's in favor of me.
Right.
And so I have to, and I don't know if you've heard this term. I'm sure you have. I called it a CEO drive-by. I'm like, I thou shall not do drive-bys was my saying. I'm not going to do drive-bys. And so what are your thoughts on that? Because I think a lot of people maybe, and I'll tell you how I learned the lesson, because I think it's important context for this conversation. There was a time in my life when I stopped being the CEO for 18 months, and I went into a joint venture with a company where I was not the CEO. And I had, and it was the first time ever that I saw that I would say, hey, we should do this thing that, like, there's this thing that's broken over there. We should fix it. And then people would look at me and they wouldn't fix it. And I was like, but that's like a obviously broken thing that takes 1 second to fix. And they'd look at me and then they wouldn't fix it. And then the CEO finally is like, hey, why is that thing broken over there? I'm like, yeah, I'm like, I know. I've been requesting it to be fixed 5 times now and they won't do it. And he went to the same people, said it once, and they fixed it. And my brain exploded. Like I was like, holy crap. Like my realization was people don't just do stuff because they should do it necessarily. Hopefully they will, but this place also had kind of not the best culture. But I learned something was that the CEO position holds a lot of authority, and which is, I'm being Captain Obvious again, but it was also like I should be grateful because it's not me they're listening to, it's the position they're listening to.
Right.
And so I honored that going forward, that, hey, my words mean something if I'm in this seat. How do you how can you, do you think that I don't think every leader realizes this, because I watch other CEOs.
Look, not at all. Let me give you some, and by the way, even sometimes great leaders don't realize this. See, that lesson you learned about email, a lot of really great leaders don't immediately get this one. I see this all the time. One of the really nice guys I work with was Mike Duke. Mike was CEO of Walmart. And by the way, nicest guy in the world. He's getting feedback from people. Well, he expects us to work on the weekends, blah, blah, blah. Same as you. Well, I don't expect them to work on the weekends. Well, they're getting emails from him on the weekends. Well, he said, but I don't expect them to reply. I said, you're the CEO of one of the biggest companies in the world. Are you kidding me? I get an email from you. Guess what? I'm not going to ignore the email. But deal with it. Well, he then put in a filter so he could still write emails over the weekend. It just didn't get sent, right?
Yeah, that's what I do.
So, but by the way, Mike Duke is not a stupid guy. You're in good company. The fact that you thought of that at all is more unusual than it is usual. Now, one other thing about, saluting the flag in the CEO story, another great leader is Eric Shinseki I worked with. Eric was head of the United States. He's 4-star general. General Shinseki, he was head of the U.S. Army. So I watched him orient the new generals. And going back to your good point, he said, you drive that car, that car goes through that military base with a flag on it. See that flag for general. Everybody in that base stops and salutes. You know what he said? They're not saluting you. They're saluting that star. He said, a monkey could be in that car. And you know what? They're saluting the monkey. It's not you. Don't let it go to your head. Very wise. By the way, about half the admirals in the Navy and generals in the Army, as soon as they get the star, they have ego issues.
Yeah, it's interesting. I read you call yourself as a philosophical Buddhist.
Yes.
And so I'm 46. I just turned 46 on last Thursday. And
well, happy birthday.
Thank you. But I've had the title of CEO for over 20 years now, like minus that one stint when people wouldn't listen to me. But it's been, since like 2000, I think was my first business, maybe even before then. And so I realized that there is a lot of ego. I think I also think that as when we're younger and we want to prove value and worth, there's a lot of ego feeding, right? Which is, hey, you did a good job, you get promoted. Whether if you're coming up through corporate America, it's like, hey, Darius did a good job, promote him to VP, promote him to EVP, promote him to COO, promote him to president, promote him to CEO. So by the time a lot of those folks get there, their ego's been fed for decades, more than likely, right? Mine was a little bit different in that I had a lot of success really early in my career, and I told you I was a lender, so I ran a subprime mortgage lender. That was number 40 in the Inc. 5000 by the time I wasn't even 30 years old. And then my business went from, about 150 employees to 10 employees overnight because of the, great financial crisis. And then I noticed something that people who were really nice to me weren't nice to me. Like, and people that like called me up to hang out, quit calling me up to hang out. And I was, it really hurt my feelings. Honestly, it hurt my feelings. I wasn't even 30. I was like in my late 20s. Like nowadays, kids live with their parents till they're 26. I had already had a company by then.
You know what? There's a song about that. Money, you got a lot of friends hanging around your door. But when it's gone and spending ends, they don't come around no more.
Yeah. I hadn't heard that song, but I experienced it in real life.
Oh, yeah.
And it really hurt my feelings. And because
look, you can talk to Terry about that or any of my clients. You think you're a big man. You leave that corporate job. One of my good clients was he was a managing partner at Goldman Sachs, right? He's a big deal, and they did the IPO. He made a lot of money, so he didn't go over lead a nonprofit, but he had 2 months between when he left and his moving, right, to get an order. 2 months. He said that first week, everybody, oh, don't leave us. We love you. You're good. Oh, your customers love me. Who's getting your office? He said, after 1 week, you know what he said?
Crickets.
I walked down the hall and nobody saw me.
Yeah.
Nobody saw me. No. Hey, people got lives here, right? And by the way, why would any rational human go to work for Goldman Sachs anyway? Why are they working 80 hours a week for 20 years? Why they've been training for this job since they were 10, getting an MBA from Harvard? Why are they doing all that stuff? Let me help you. Money for who?
Them. Yeah.
You got out of that money train. Bye-bye.
Yeah, power and money. Yeah, it's funny. So the second time it happened to me was I left. I stepped down CEO of that company I was telling you about. I sold my ownership interest, and it happened exact same. But the second time it happened, a little stuff. It was like I'd already lived it before, right? So at that point, it wasn't a surprise. What I did is funny is, there's a quote that I'm sure you've heard, which is, loyalty is a gift, right? So I was like, I was curious who would still give me who was there, right?
Right.
And when it was a few people, I just was like, I was not surprised by who it was. And I was like, oh, those are the people I expected it to be. And I wasn't upset when the others didn't show up. I said, like it's a gift. Like they don't want to give it. They don't have to give it. It's like, it'd be like expecting a gift from somebody that like doesn't have, there's no reason to give it, but I expect it because loyalty, I demand loyalty and I don't demand loyalty. I think loyalty is a gift. So what are your thoughts on that? On that
you got
comment?
It. Like General Shinseki said, you don't have that star? Watch how much they salute then.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's life. Now, let me give you another great example of just what you're saying. One of the really neat people, I've coached so many wonderful people. One of them is Karen Garrison. She was the number 2 person at a company called Pitney Bowes, right? So Karen, your story reminded me of Karen. Karen's getting ready to retire, so she made 2 lists. One list she called My True Friends. Second list called Suck Ups. Now, she said, now, when I retire, I'm going to predict these people still be my friends. These people not going to talk to me. She was 50% wrong on both lists.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Half the people she thought were good friends were just better suck-ups.
Oh, they hit it better. Interesting.
And half the people she thought didn't really care for did. They would talk to her, say, Karen, we respect you. You've meant so much to me. I hope we can keep in touch. She asked every one of them, why didn't you tell me that when we worked together? And they all had the same answer. Didn't want to look like a suck-up.
Oh, so interesting.
It's sometimes very hard to tell. Now, let me take a little diversion here, if you don't mind, because you're talking about a topic that's a fun one, suck-ups. Now, see, we all say we hate suck-ups. How about you? You like suck-ups or don't like suck-ups? What do you think?
I honestly, I don't like obvious suck-ups.
That's it. You got it. We all say we hate suck-ups. We hate obvious suck-ups. We hate bad suck-ups. So I teach my class, like, how about suck-ups? You like suck-ups? No, very bad. I like people tell the truth. I don't like suck-ups. Then I ask them, how many of you own a dog you love?
Yeah.
What's your dog's name? Spiffy. You have a dog, right?
Oh, yeah.
Then it's, who gets the most unqualified recognition? Your home, your wife, your kids, or your dog? Who wins? The dog.
Probably
And
my
I said,
dog, yeah.
do you love your dog more than your wife and your kids? They go, no. Well, why does the dog get the recognition? The dog doesn't talk back. The dog doesn't argue. When I come home, the dog's happy to see me. Come home late, still happy. Late and drunk, dog doesn't care. Dog loves me. The dog is a suck up.
I love that. What do you? So yeah, it's funny. I was thinking about that more as you said it. I'm like the people there because there's people that I've been around in my career that are overtly honest, and I'm like, get them away from me because it's always bad news and like what's going to blow up, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, like I can't deal with this, right? So you know what I mean? It's like it's too much, right? So I think that this kind of goes back to the earlier part of the conversation, which is I think you kind of got to meet. I think the job of if either to be influenced or be the influencer is that I need to figure out where that person's at and approach them in a way that's going to get me the highest likelihood of the result I'm looking for, whatever that is.
What about Peter Drucker? You're the customer. I got to sell, right? Now, Frances Hesselbein, did I ever see her get angry? No. Why? She's a professional. Now, I'm glad you brought this up. There's two terms people confuse. One is honesty, and the second one is disclosure. Frances is very honest. Ella Mullally's honest, the highest integrity in the world. Frances, honest. Hubert Joly, honest. These are my clients are honest people. Terry's honest, a good person, right? Well, that doesn't mean you say what's on your mind every 5 seconds. There's a difference between honesty and disclosure. Some people confuse these terms. They think honesty means I have to walk in every day and tell you all my problems and tell me, here's what I think's wrong with you today and all that stuff. Well, yeah, back to J.P. Garnier's point. Are you right? Maybe. Is it worth it? No. There's a difference. Yeah, honesty and disclosure are two different things. So you may think your boss is a total ass. You don't have to tell everybody in the world that. You don't have to say that. That's not a requirement for you to share this knowledge with the world.
When do you think it's appropriate? I number one, I think that makes total sense, right? And I love the kind of delineation between the two. When do you think it is appropriate for disclosure?
Great, you asked that question. That was a wonderful question. Why was it a wonderful question? I have an answer. What's a bad question? I don't know the answer. That was a good one. Now, this one I can definitely answer. Back to Peter Drucker's point. We're here to make a positive difference. Before you speak, breathe. Breathe. One question. When is it worth it? Am I willing at this time to make the investment required to make a positive difference on this topic? Let me repeat that. Am I willing at this time to make the investment required to make a positive difference on this topic? If the answer is yes, say it. If the answer is no, why are you talking? You're not trying to make a positive difference here. Why are you talking? You're trying to prove you're smart, try to be right, put somebody down. Why are you talking? Well, you're not trying to help the world get better. As Peter Drucker said, which I agree with, we're here to make the world better, not to prove how smart we are.
Interesting. So in my career, I've found that I'm probably, it depends on who I'm talking to, right? Obviously, there's certain rooms where full disclosure is kind of expected because we're gloves off and we need to get the best results. Yeah. I think there's an underlying expectation that we're all willing to do what it takes to get a good result. But then there's moments in relationships, maybe when they're newer or like you're less experienced, where you don't have that trust yet, right? And so I found, at least whether it's with myself or with people that I'm managing, that I don't necessarily want the full disclosure out of the gate because, I'm still like kind of understanding the intent, right?
Right.
But sometimes, I feel like we're at a crossroad and I kind of have nothing to lose at this point except full disclosure, so that I can kind of try to get to the right result, because I feel like we're not rowing in the same direction.
We're talking about disclosure about what? Right? Disclosure is not, let me tell you about my foot hurts today.
Right.
Or let me complain about the weather, or let me bum rap other people who aren't in the room. That's disclosure, but it's useless.
Correct.
Now, you're talking about disclosure related to getting a job done, which is a totally different thing. Now, I'll give you a model about this. I learned in the years ago, I worked for IBM. They were the most admired company in the world, and I was a consultant. I went to their management training, and they taught one lesson I never forgot. It's called challenge up and support down. What that means is you get an order, you think it's a stupid order. Well, challenge it. That's your job. It's okay. Challenge it. On the other hand, when the final decision is made and you shake hands, you own it. You commit to the decision. McKinsey has another phrase, very similar. It's called fight on the inside, support on the outside. When you get in the team and you're talking about a business issue, you do want full disclosure about that issue because that is productive and useful disclosure. On the other hand, you shake hands, that decision's made, you support the team. You're part of the team. And maybe it wasn't your decision. The team made the decision. You don't win them all. You didn't win this one. You know what you do? You salute the flag. You go make it work. So McKinsey and IBM both teach this in slightly different ways, but it's a very similar theme, which I love. So you're right. You do need full disclosure about what? You need full disclosure about let's solve this problem. Let's work together. Let's fix it. That's true. You don't need full disclosure about, let me tell you why I think Joe, my coworker, is an ass.
Right. What do you, I guess one question, and I want to be respectful of your time. We got about 10 minutes left, if that's okay with you. Does that work for you, Marshall?
Oh, by the way, now at the two things at the end, you got to give me about 2 or 3 minutes for my final comment.
Yeah. We'll do that for sure. So I got two things. Of number one, I want to talk a little bit about the AI stuff as well. So we'll answer this question. We'll go to the AI, and then we'll do the greatness question.
Okay, great.
But what when you look at teams, battling it out, one of the things I guess I've assessed in my experience leading folks is and the term I've used in my business is it's the horse in the race, right? It feels like in general, and this is not always true, but I feel like there's a lot of folks that just have a horse in the race. They just they want they're trying to like have their team get what they need, have they get what they need. There's they have in the back of their mind their want list, and so until there's absolute like real trust, which takes time to build, I'm assessing for what horse is in the race here first. That's my assessment is. What horse? Do they have a horse in this race? Is that a yes or no statement? And if I'm not sure, then I'm trying to still figure it out till I'm clear it's not or it is. And then if it is, then it's like then it kind of taints the conversation. So, like, how do you approach that if we know that, especially in corporate America, there's a lot of horses in the race, and so like I feel like that seems to be like the first thing we're negotiating with before we actually get to the real issue, which is, hey, I want to make this a better company. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, number one. People have self-interest. My daughter, Kelly Goldsmith, she's a professor at Vanderbilt. I'm very proud of her, PhD from Yale. She's writing an article about this right now with me for Chief Executive Magazine. It's called Destigmatizing the Win-Win Relationship. I mean, it's very healthy to say, look, what's in it for you? And not have naive expectation that everyone's job is to worship the corporate God. That's a little unrealistic. One of my clients is CEO of a bank. He says to the top 12 people, I want you to spend 4 hours and do nothing but focus on the long-term good of the bank. What's going to be like 10 years from today? 4 hours. Not an unrealistic. A week later, how many people did it? 0. Now, I told him, look, Joe over there. Joe's 62 years old. He's got numbers. He's got a KPI. He's got things beating him over the head. He's got a family. This bank is owned by a bunch of rich private investors. So you're asking Joe to take a personal hit. So 10 years from today, some billionaire is going to get a little bit more money. Is that about it? Yeah. Well, let me tell you, that's a hard sell.
Yeah.
That's a hard sell. Now, you can do it. Yeah, you have to say, you got to make something in it for Joe here.
Sure.
Something. Because if there's nothing in it for Joe, it's not on his comp, there's no benefit, there's no recognition. I'm not saying he won't do it. I'm just telling you, it's a hard sell. I'm sacrificing myself and my family today. So some rich guy 10 years from today is going to give more money to his grandkids?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, maybe not so much.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like that's that what Charlie Munger quote. You show me their incentives, I'll show you their outcomes. Right? I'll show you their behavior. Yeah, it's interesting. Man, I swear I feel like we're just getting started. It's so much fun. I knew it'd be like this, but we are getting towards the end of the show. First of all, I'd love to hear a little bit about the AI. We're in a world of AI. We didn't even get to talk about AI, and that was on my list. I'm like, oh man, I want to talk to you about AI, and I know that that's like the most dramatic change that's happening.
74. My higher purpose is to help as many people as I can have a better life while I am here on Earth and after I leave. I hope that my bot can share almost everything that I know with as many people from around the world as possible at no cost.
Oh, I see it now. Okay, so tell us about this.
I asked my computer bot, "Why are you doing this?"
Interesting. So is this like perpetual Marshall Goldsmith? Is that what this is?
Look, this thing is mind blowing. I want everybody to go to marshallgoldsmith.ai. It's free. There's no expectations. And by the way, it's not like you go to this and it's free, but then you pay more. No, it's all free. It's really, truly free. I want everybody to go visit. This thing is mind blowing. Look, my daughter Kelly wanted to trick it. She said, all right, I'm going to trick it. How is utilitarian philosophy related to your coaching? The thing studies utilitarian philosophy, studies my coaching, figures out how it's similar, different, comes up with an answer, comes up with suggestions, answers in my voice in 5 seconds.
Wow. So
this thing is mind-blowing. I love this. By the way, no offense to me, but I can't compete with this thing.
So it's basically, did you just democratize the coaching of Marshall Goldsmith so that anyone can have you as their coach? Is that basically what this is?
Anybody can use this any way they want, and it's free. Look, I'm getting old. Like it said, I'm an old man. I won't give away everything anyway. I'm not going to be here. So this is my way to try to. A lot of people have been nice to me. Well, this is my way to give back to them.
I love that. So the audience knows this, but you may or may not. I'm the most selfish person on earth when it comes to the show. So every guest I ask to come on the show is just someone I want to like pick their brain for an hour. And so this has been such a treat to get to pick your brain. A lot. I'm solving some of my own problems right now in my business with this conversation. So I think number one, I'm so super grateful to get to have this conversation. Number two, I'm super grateful to go to your bot and ask him the rest of my questions. But yeah, that's so cool. I'm excited for the world to get to have full democratized access to your amazing brain, and super grateful to have had you on the show today. But we are towards the end of the show. Before we go to the greatness question, Marshall, I'd love to know, is there anything else besides the bot that you would like to promote to our audience where they could learn more about you and your work?
Well, first, go to marshallgoldsmith.ai. That's the best way. And, or Marshall at marshallgoldsmith.com. Send me an email. I'm Marshall at marshallgoldsmith.com or www.marshallgoldsmith.com. So just send me an email. And by the way, if you're ever in Nashville, Tennessee, and you want to take a walk, call me up, send me an email. We'll take a walk. I always invite everyone I talk to come visit me in Nashville. And by the way, if you do come to Nashville, I got some spiffy neighbors. One of my neighbors is Keith Urban. Ooh, who
nice.
I see jogging around? Who was jogging around the house just yesterday? Nicole Kidman is my neighbor, and who owns the house across the street? That would be Taylor Swift. So you want to come out here to Nashville and visit? I would love to see everyone come out to Nashville and visit. Now, back to this. Final thoughts. Breathe. I want final advice for everybody. Are we ready? Breathe. Slow down that 200-mile-an-hour brain. Imagine you're 95 years old and you're just getting ready to die. Here comes that last breath. But right before you take that last breath, you're given a beautiful gift. The ability to go back in time and talk to the person who's listening to me right now. What advice would that wise old you who knows what mattered in life, what didn't, what was important, wasn't, have for you? Well, whatever you're thinking now, do that. That's it. That's the only performance appraisal is going to matter. Now, some friends of mine interviewed old folks who are dying, got to ask the question, what advice did you have? 3 things. Number 1, be happy now. Not next week, not next month, not next year. Don't get so busy looking at what you don't have, you can't appreciate what you do have. And number 2, help people. Be good to people. Friends, family, people you work with, not to make money or status. 95-year-old you'll be proud of you because you did and disappointed if you don't. And then finally, go for it. You got a dream, go for it. You don't go for it when you're 45, not when you're 85. And you may not win, at least you tried. Old people, we don't regret the risks we take and fail. We usually regret those risks we fail to take. So thank you. Now you're going to got one more question for me.
Oh, you just answered it. Yeah, I'm like, I think Marshall just like basically answered the greatness question without me even asking it. So, Marshall, so much gratitude from us here. You are an amazing human being, and it's such a treat for me to get to spend time with you, and for our listeners to get to learn from you. And really excited to go check out the bot and just to promote your work to our audience and for all the greatness you've brought to this world. Thank you so much, my friend.
Very honored to be here, and I just hope some people have a little better life based on some of the stuff we did today. Thank you.
Definitely. Listeners, go out there, share this with those you love. Until next time, peace out. We love you. You are listening to The Greatness Machine, and that's a wrap for today. Listen, if you love what you heard, subscribe to the show on whatever podcast platform that you're tuning in on, so that you don't miss any of our future episodes. We have tons of great people coming on, and we're stoked to have you here to enjoy it with us. Leave us a review. Tell us what you love most about this particular episode. We love getting the reviews. We love to see what you guys love most. And if this particular episode, made you think of someone who's leveling up in their business and in their life, print screen, share it with them. Leaders are the best givers, and after all, we're all here to support and grow with each other. And in case you want to see some of the fun behind the scenes shots or some of the things that we're doing, I'm actually writing about this in my weekly newsletter. Go to www.therealdarius.com and subscribe to my newsletter. We're talking about fun things like business and life and mindfulness and cryptocurrencies and gosh, I don't even know, everything and anything, but it's tons of fun stuff I write about. I try to get it out on a weekly basis. You can subscribe at www.therealdarius.com. And with that said, look, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. I love you. Peace. We're out of here. See you guys on the next one.
She's my lover.